Michael Savage. Since Dr. Seuss has been declared persona non grata in the psychopathic America of today run by leftist scum, we are now moving into a new world that nobody could have predicted a few short years ago. So I decided for this reason to read you a children's story while we can still read children's stories written by white males like myself. A few years back, I published my favorite book, one of my favorite books, called Teddy and Me. And although it's pictures of Teddy and me, great pictures, by the way, Teddy's completely blind and deaf. It's awful, heartbreaking. It's just awful. Look at him when he was alive and happy. God, but that's what happens, you know. Here's a painting I made of him, by the way. Those of you who understand art will see how great that painting is. Those of you who don't know anything about art will mock it and say it's not good because you have no idea what art is. But nevertheless, that's a self-portrait, by the way, of me at another time. But in this book, getting back to the main point, Teddy and me, see, that's Teddy and me when he was still able to see and hear. There's a children's story buried within. I did it as a little treat for those of you who actually read books. And it is called Kindly Dogs and Kindly Bears on page 57. Now, I haven't read this in many years, so it's going to be an experiment for me to see if it's permitted. I haven't yet asked the Twitter police or the Facebook police or the fascists in the universities or the publishing industry who have locked everyone out who they disapprove of because they want to live in a fascist dictatorship, if this bedtime story is permissible. Now, I wrote it and I said, here's a bedtime story I wrote and read to Ted some rainy nights when the thunder scares him. But unfortunately, as I opened the book on page 59, I noticed a photograph of me and Teddy in bed. And I noticed that there's a loaded shotgun in the bed. I don't know if that's allowed in a book, but there I am reading the newspaper with Teddy, and there's a shotgun. So that may mean the book now has to be burned by the left-wing fascists who are ruining the country. But so I figured I would do this for you today and read this while it can still be read, and maybe it will get out onto Periscope, maybe it won't, maybe it'll make it to YouTube, maybe the Nazi fascists will ban it, who knows. And the reason I'm reading it to you is not only because Dr. Seuss was banned by the vermin of the earth, but I was going through my old manuscripts, and I found the handwritten story that I wrote when I wrote it, Teddy and the Bears by Michael Kindly. See, here's the handwritten manuscript. And one day somebody may want this. It was written July 21, 2013 in Tiburon, California. And I found the handwritten manuscript. And as a writer who's written since I'm 16 years old, handwritten manuscripts mean a lot to me. So here's the handwritten manuscript, which means a lot to me. And if you want to get your children out right now, this is a children's story, before they burn the books. Can you believe that the left is so psychotic and sick that they would do a thing like this? Wow, I'll have more to say about that another time. But right now, all I want to do is read to the children Teddy and the Bears by Michael Kindly. I think it's page 57 in this book. Kindly Dogs and Kindly Bears. Remember, it's buried within the book. Many of you didn't even see the story because it was about me and a dog. May I read it to you now? You got your children around you? I promise you, I think it's politically okay. I haven't consulted the vermin in the media or the scum in the universities or the vermin in the publishing business as to whether I can read it. But I'm going to read it to you now. Here's the original manuscript again, and here's the printed version of it here. I don't know if there's any difference. I don't know which one I want to read from. Would I feel better reading the manuscript? Will the police come to my home and grab the manuscript and burn it? Should we ask someone at the University of California at Berkeley if I'm allowed to read it? In the forest there lived some bears, but they were a lost tribe of little bears, very little bears. I'm going to kill somebody, just a minute. I can't talk right now. I'm doing a video. I'll call you back in 15 minutes. I will get back. I'm sorry. I have people, they don't call me, but they have an intuition to disturb me when I least want to be disturbed. In the forest there lived some bears, but they were a lost tribe of little bears, very little bears. They hid from sight, and no one had ever seen them. In the village there were hunting dogs, big hunting dogs, who hunted big bears. They were called poodles. Everyone thought they were cute because they smiled as poodles do. But they were bred to hunt, not to smile. In this village, there was a kindly old man who loved both dogs and bears. He cried every time the hunters came home with a bear. So he decided to help both bears and dogs. He found the smallest of the poodles and the smallest of the bears. Then he secretly married the little poodle to another little poodle, and they had 7 small baby poodles. In the forest, he found an abandoned baby bear who was left behind after his mama bear was taken by the hunters. He took the baby bear home and introduced her to the small baby poodles. They all played together in Mr. Kindly's cottage. Then one day, the old man thought, what's going to happen to them when I'm gone? Who will take care of them? I'm going to pause right now because I don't know if this is recording. Is it recording? Say it's recording with the hearts, so I'll go on. Okay. I see the idiots are on already, the morons who have no brains already have nothing to do. They all played together in Mr. Kindly's cottage. Then one day the old man thought, what's going to happen to them when I'm gone? Who will take care of them? So Mr. Kindly decided he would keep choosing from the smallest of the bears and the smallest of the dogs and help them have babies. End of chapter 1. See, end of chapter 1? That's called cursive writings. You psychotic losers in the universities who can't write your own name. You never should have been admitted to the universities. You're fit for a doghouse to clean the dog crap that's left on the bottom of a doghouse. Years later, when Mr. Kindly was gone and his small cottage was abandoned in the deep forest, a group of children on a school outing stumbled on the abandoned building. They slowly tiptoed in. As they looked around, they found torn and yellowed scraps of pictures showing the kindly old man surrounded by little dogs and little bears, all cozy together around a warm fire inside the hearth, inside near the hearth. The children's teacher wondered where all those cute furry animals came from, and where did they go? Where were they? And chapter 3. Deep in the forest, there was a huge, huge tree whose trunk was wider than an elephant. It was over 200 years old. Inside this tree was a little door carved near the foot of the trunk. And this door led to a cave which spread out forever and a mile. And only God in heaven could see where this endless cave led. In chapter 4. Somewhere beyond this tree, there is a world where tiny bears and tiny poodles sit together, sipping on honeyed leaves, leaves not yet discovered, which give all the nutrition needed for kindly bears and kindly dogs to live forever and a day. You can find this little story in Teddy and Me.